And here we go from the national headquarters of RT America in our nation's capital. Hello again, everybody. I'm Rick Sanchez. The President of the United States today declared Juan Guaido as the new president of Venezuela. This is a huge declaration with far-reaching global implications, especially in light of the fact that Guaido, taking the cue from Washington, shortly afterward declared himself the president of Venezuela. Why is that weird? Well, it's weird because Guaido is the leader of the country's National Assembly. He's not the country's president. The elected president of Venezuela is Nicolas Maduro, who was just recently sworn in, as we've been telling you. So effectively, President Trump's declaration in Venezuela, it would be equivalent to Russia's Vladimir Putin, China's Xi Jinping, or Germany's Angela Merkel, let's say, recognizing Nancy Pelosi as the new president of the United States. It really does bring into question this whole notion of U.S. interventions, all of which we're going to be getting into with a very particular guest in just a little bit. But for now, the most important question is what's going to happen in Venezuela, right? Well, as we speak, the streets of Venezuela are jammed with protesters from both sides. Supporters of the socialist President Maduro are being urged to take to the streets and take on Guaido's backers, and they are. Now, for its part, the country's Supreme Court has ruled that Mr. Trump's declaration assigning Guaido as the Venezuelan new president is not legitimate, and the military has also said that they're also not going to support this move, making Guaido the president. We've also just learned, just moments ago, that U.S. diplomats were expelled by Maduro and were given 72 hours to leave the country. Now, here's where this gets really weird as well. The U.S. is saying those diplomats will not leave, that they're going to stay right there, so says Pompeo, because we, the United States, do not recognize the Maduro government. So what happens next in this country of 31 million people who are already suffering from runaway inflation and a souring crime rate? And more importantly, who is going to be affected by this in America? How are we as Americans going to be affected by this story? This is The News with Rick Sanchez, where we tackle stories like this head on and unfiltered because we do believe it is time to do news again. Let's begin with the latest out of Venezuela. It is a country on the brink of a coup, or will Maduro somehow be able to hold on to power against the forces of both his opposition and the United States, who are now giving him their full-throated support? All right, RT America's Dan Cohen has been monitoring developments throughout the day. He now files this report.
President Trump made the announcement this afternoon, saying that Washington has recognized Juan Guaido as the interim president of Venezuela and called for new elections. As the situation escalates, the Trump administration isn't ruling out any course of action.
Are you considering a military option for Venezuela?
We're not considering anything, but all options are on the table.
Does that mean you're considering those?
Which is all options, always. All options are on the table.
Nicolas Maduro has rejected Trump's declaration and responded by announcing the expulsion of all U.S. diplomats from the country.
I will sign the diplomatic note giving all diplomatic and consular personnel of the United States in Venezuela 72 hours to leave the country. I proceed to sign it in the name of all the people of Venezuela.
The Venezuelan military has announced it's standing by Maduro and will not recognize Guaido as president. Of course, the key question here is who is the actual president? Maduro was inaugurated for a second term earlier this month after he won in what independent observers called a clean election. Guaido was elected to Congress but didn't even run in the presidential election. So beyond this decree from Washington, Guaido has no real mandate to be the leader of Venezuela. Both supporters of the government and the opposition have taken to the streets en masse. And there are at least a couple of injuries as opposition protesters clash with police. Trump administration officials are insisting that recognizing Guaido is the president's decision and his alone. But Senator Marco Rubio actually announced Guaido's recognition ahead of Trump. Rubio is demanding American diplomats stay in Venezuela and calling on the State Department to expel Maduro's diplomats from the U.S. and replace them with Guaido's. So far, we've seen Canada and Washington's regional allies in Colombia, Brazil, Ecuador, Peru, and Costa Rica all follow Trump's lead in recognizing Guaido. On the other hand, Mexico, Bolivia, and Cuba are sticking with Maduro.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.